So a lot of you may have seen my video back in April where I cruised on P&O Iona. This was a 7-night cruise to the Norwegian Fjords. But this was my family's first ever cruise, and like many things, we made a few mistakes. Obviously they weren't major, we didn't miss the ship or anything, but if we'd remembered some items or not booked certain things, then I think our cruise would have just gone slightly more smoothly. Now we are going on another cruise next year to the Mediterranean on P&O's newest ship, Arvia, which comes out in December. So I thought I'd share some of my tips that I have found out while I cruised on P&O, and I hope they'd help you if you're ever going on a cruise, or if you're looking at cruising with P&O, whether it be a good idea. I've split it up into 5 different categories that cover all of the stuff that you'll be doing on and off the ship on your cruise. The first category is something that you've got to think about before you even set foot on the ship, and that's what to take. Now, you're obviously going to take some clothes, shoes, some formal attire for the formal night, which there should be 1 or 2 per your P&O cruise, depending on which ship you go on and for how long. But there's also a few obscure items which I think are pretty necessary. You're going to want to take a water bottle and a coffee cup. The only time that you're allowed to get juice for free on the ship is in the morning at breakfast time, so before about 11 AM. Now, if you're going to go on an excursion that day, or you're just going to go around the ship, then it's great to have a water bottle with some juice in to carry around. There are also water refill stations all across the ship, which are great if you're feeling a bit thirsty, but aren't great when you don't have anything to drink out of. A coffee cup is always great as well, because you can only get tea and coffee for free in certain places. So in your cabin, the buffet restaurant, and I think the quays as well, which is also sort of like a buffet. So it's great if you're going on an excursion that day, or you're just going to be going somewhere that isn't near any of the restaurants and you just want to chill out with a drink and don't want to pay for it, then it's a great idea to take your own coffee cup. Another thing that relates to this is some sandwich boxes. Again, if you're going out off the ship for a day and you don't want to pay for food, because especially I went to Norway is so expensive, so you don't want to be buying food, especially when it's free on board. So you want to take some kind of container, like a sandwich box, where you can put maybe a sandwich from the morning. We went on a hike up Pulpit Rock one day and we took some muffins with us to eat at the top because there was no food supplied on this excursion. And it was great because we were so low on energy after walking up and we had to walk all the way back down. You also might want to take a dressing gown or some kind of toweling gown. You don't need to take towels because there are loads supplied there. They're all by the pools. But if you're walking back from the pool to your cabin, it might be quite a journey and you don't want to be wearing your clothes because it will probably get them wet. So if you take some kind of dressing gown, then this will be great just to walk from the pool to your cabin, stay warm, and it will dry you off. If you're going on a longer cruise like we are next year for 14 days, you might consider taking some washing powder because there are laundrettes on each of the floors, which we didn't use yet, but when we went to look inside, it didn't seem like they supplied washing powder, so it might be a good idea to take your own just in case they don't supply them. The last thing you might want to take is your own music and shows. Not exactly taking them, but to download them on your phone beforehand. Unless you're buying the cruise Wi-Fi, which from one of the people we were staying with tried, it isn't great. So you might want to download your own music beforehand so you can listen to that if you're walking around the ship, going on a run or using the gym at any time, because streaming it may not work. You may also want to download maybe some Netflix shows and stuff, but this isn't fully necessary as the TVs in the cabins have loads of preloaded shows and movies which you can watch for free. Another thing you might want to consider if you have them is some walkie-talkies. So someone that we were staying with brought walkie-talkies and they were a great idea because you can't communicate on board, especially if you don't have Wi-Fi, because there's no way of calling anyone because calls don't work out in the ocean. So walkie-talkies were great to communicate on board. They didn't work all the time, but when they did work, they were perfect. So what you might want to do instead is to tell who you're meeting up with, the time and the place, and that's just a perfect idea to easily communicate where you want to meet up. There are also phones located around the ship, which you can just dial the cabin number, and that will ring the cabin of your choice, if you know that they're in their cabin. If they're not, then you might have a slight problem there. So the next section of my cruise tips is to do with food. Now, I love food, and being on board P&O was amazing because on P&O Iona, they enforced the idea of freedom dining. Now, this is where you can dine at any restaurant at any time you like. So the buffet restaurant is open about 20 hours a day. They're only closed overnight from about 1 a.m. till 6 a.m. and then they open back up for breakfast. There are even midnight snacks there, which I definitely took advantage of. But on every P&O cruise, you should have at least one formal night. Now, this is where you wear formal attire. It's usually black tie, and it's a 5-course meal, as a 5-course meal, and it's got some really delicious dishes. Now, this taste of a more formal dinner did mean that we did go to a couple of the specialty restaurants on a few of our nights, which we decided to do, and we did enjoy it. But this isn't necessary. If you're not a foodie like me and you're just there to enjoy yourself, eat food that you need because it's nutritious, but you don't really need that experience, then the buffet restaurant, the Keys on Iona, I don't know what they're called on other ships, but there was also the Coral and the Pearl. There was 2 others as well. Can't remember the names, but they were set meals with a menu that would be delivered to your cabin every day, and they were free of charge and included in your cruise price. We did go there a couple of nights, and for breakfast and for dinner, and the meals were really good. So I do recommend maybe going to one of the specialty restaurants, but it's not 100% necessary, and you can definitely enjoy yourself by going to the free of charge ones. So another really important part of your cruise is going to be your drinks. You're definitely not going to be able to survive without drinks. But as I said earlier, you can get juice and water for free on the boat. So I would take a water bottle. But to get anything like soft drinks such as Coca-Cola, lemonade, you will have to buy a drinks package. But the main drinks package, the ultimate drinks package for adults, which includes all alcohol, hot drinks, but this has a lot of limitations on it, and for £40 a day is quite an expense. So I would recommend weighing up how much a drink would cost, how many you'd have in a day, and whether it would be worth having the drinks as you go along. You are, however, allowed to bring your own drinks on board. We brought a whole case of Coke Zero with us, and this was fine. You're also allowed to take a few litres of alcohol, which we didn't use that much, but it was still good to have. Our party did have one drinks package, which was the child's drinks package for me. This was only £8 a day, and it included all your soft drinks, so juices, Coca-Cola, lemonade, and also hot chocolates, which were really nice. Even though they're called child's packages, they're not limited to just children. Anyone can purchase this package. You do also have a 3 or 4 day waiting period, so you can check out the prices beforehand for a few days. Then if you think it's cheaper to buy the package, you can buy that a few days in. But bear in mind in the cost that you will be in port for a few days, so you will be off the ship at some points of the day, so you won't be able to take advantage of the drinks package. So my 4th category of tips is to do with entertainment. So what I'd recommend is if your ship has sports courts like Iona did, and Arvia will too, that if it's possible, book them as early as you can. Now, we went to the basketball court on the 2nd day and there was already people playing on it. But then we realised just downstairs there was a man that you could sign up for courts with. We didn't get a basketball court for that day because they were all fully booked. But we did manage to play quoits, which was a game where you throw rope rings. We did, however, manage to, on the 4th or 5th day, I think it was, book out a basketball court that we played on for a little while. Now for your entertainment like performances, the only entertainment isn't just at the Headliners Theatre. There's usually music and quizzes at some of the bars like Brody's, and you could also watch sport there too. The Clubhouse I found was a really great place. They also held a game show which one of our friends was invited to play in. But unfortunately, some of the performances at the Headliners Theatre weren't our favourites exactly. We only went to 2, one on the 2nd night and one on the last night. They weren't exactly bad. I guess they weren't our taste. So my last category of tips is excursions. So these are your trips and your events off the ship. So as we're in Norway, we booked 2 excursions and we had 4 port days. So two days we were on excursions, 2 days we weren't. So the other 2 days we were able to explore. We found it wasn't completely necessary to book through the cruise company. Now, when we went up Pulpit Rock on our first day in Norway, which was our first excursion, we thought this one was quite necessary as the drive was quite far, so it wouldn't be very easy to get on your own. But on the second day, we were able to explore on our own, and we found this bus tour company just right outside where we had docked, and this took us to a glacier. It worked out around £30 per person, which was a lot cheaper than some of the other tours that P&O were running themselves. And next year we'll be going to the Mediterranean, so there should be a lot of beaches, which we should be able to use for free. So we won't be booking too many excursions there, although we are going to Italy, so we want to go and see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, which I think we'll book an excursion for. One of the benefits of booking an excursion rather than doing something yourself is that if the excursion is delayed in any way, the ship has to wait for you as it's part of their policy, whereas if you come back late on your own, there is a likelihood that it may have set off without you. So I hope this video helped anyone that's going on a cruise soon, or it helped you look into what there is to do on P&O cruises. I only speak from my experience on P&O Iona. Some of the P&O ships would be different, and a lot of other cruise companies are different, but a lot of these tips are quite generic, and I'm sure some of them will help you. And I'll see you again next week in another video. Bye bye.